Trading halts on Wall Street as oil prices plunge. Hundreds of cases of the coronavirus are confirmed in the United States, and it's now hitting Capitol Hill. We'll get insight from Congressman Michael Burgess, the senior medical doctor in the House of Representatives. And first, it was Brexit. Now it's Megxit. Harry and Meghan are wrapping up their official roles as royals. Spicer & Company starts right now. As the number of coronavirus cases in the U.S. continues to rise, the ripple effect to our economy is making waves from coast to coast. I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Lindsay Keith. Well, trading was actually halted on the stock market earlier in the day as plunging oil prices sparked a massive sell-off. And here in Washington, D.C., there has been talk of Congress going into recess due to the outbreak.
Senator Ted Cruz of Texas and Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona disclosed that they were exposed to the virus while at the CPAC conference. They each released statements, Ted Cruz saying his amount of exposure was limited. Nevertheless, quote, out of an abundance of caution and because of how frequently I interact with my constituents as part of my job and to give everyone a peace of mind, I have decided to remain at my home in Texas this week until a full 14 days have passed since the CPAC interaction. Now,
right decision.
Wrong
decision.
Arizona Paul Gosar also shared something about his exposure to this thing. He says, I was with the individual for an extended period of time, and we shook hands several times. I'm not currently experiencing any symptoms, nor is any member of my staff. Okay. So now it's become more than theoretical for Congress. It's actually impacting their ability to be there, to vote, to interact. This is now going well beyond human interaction. We're seeing the economy. We're seeing shelves being empty with all of the products that we need to stay clean and disinfected out. Over and over again, these large events people are reconsidering. So it is truly gone from a virus to wreaking havoc on our life.
Yeah, that's right. And now we're seeing it's really scaring people, I think, because every time it enters one of these new phases, it's just another warning bell of, hey, you should take this seriously. It's not something to be taken necessarily lightly. Don't panic,
right,
but take caution.
But the thing that's interesting is that you look at when they close a school, they're saying, and Ted Cruz is mentioning 14 days. They're closing a school. It's 14 days. Think about the parents that impacts. They have to figure out childcare.
Yep.
All of the things that go along with that. Do the kids have to make up school? There's so many things that each one of these decisions has an impact that ripples through so many parts of our lives. So it's not just the economy. It's what do we do with the kids if they don't go to school? What do we do with the people that get paid because of that or don't? What if we, if you're an assembly line worker, what do you do to make money? There's just so much that needs to be held. The World Health Organization director weighed in on this. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
We have to assume that the virus will continue to have the capacity to spread, and it's a false hope to say, yes, it will just disappear in the summertime like influenza virus. We hope it does. That would be a godsend, but we can't make that assumption, and there is no evidence right now to suggest that will happen.
And joining us now is Congressman Michael Burgess, who is the senior medical doctor in the House of Representatives. Congressman, thank you for being here with us.
So,
Lindsay, thanks for having me on.
It is now impacted two of your own, Senator Ted Cruz from your home state of Texas and your colleague Paul Gosar from Arizona. What does this mean for your ability, not just your ability, but for the House of Representatives' ability to do its business?
Well, it is important for us to do our business, and I know, just like you, I'm hearing the rumors of an extended recess. I personally don't think that's a good idea. I think it sends...
Tell me why.
Well, I think the signal it would send by us continuing to be at our post and do our job, yes, there's going to be individual times where perhaps someone is exposed or someone even gets ill, but we need to stay on the job. We need to stay on the post.
President Trump has taken a lot of heat because he has been, some people say, downplaying the coronavirus and not happy with how he has responded. Do you think his response has been the best, or should he pivot and kind of sound the alarm bells a little more?
Well, I don't know how you could sound the alarm bells more than they've been sounded, but the president made precisely the right decision in late January. And I got to tell you, I was at an all-member briefing, and all the public health people, names you're familiar with, were there presenting to us. And what I wasn't hearing was, hey, how do we keep it from coming here? And I asked the question, and actually, public health folks generally don't like to talk about things like travel restrictions. Remember, President Obama would never do that with Ebola, never do that with Zika. But I was concerned enough about it that I continued to push the issue. I was grateful that next Friday afternoon, I think Secretary Azar came on and said, an unprecedented, not in the last 50 years, have we had a quarantine of this magnitude, and we are stopping all flights to and from mainland China. Exactly the right decision to be made at that point, I thought. Now, you're never going to keep the virus from coming here completely. I mean, the world doesn't work that way. But it did give us some additional time to prepare. Now, I guess a fair question is, has the Congress and the White House, have they used that time that they got? Have they used that to prepare properly? I'm disappointed about the test and the fact that so few tests were done during the month of February. I'm sure we'll have an all-important congressional hearing on that topic. But I will share this with you. Back in 2012, when we were doing one of the FDA reauthorization bills, there was pressure from the FDA. We want to regulate laboratory-developed tests. Historically, these things are developed by a hospital, a university, and are sort of done in the field. So they're real-time types of tests. The FDA, my opinion, didn't have the agility to be able to keep up with that diagnostic need in real time.
Interesting. So one of the things that I've heard doctors like yourself say is the best thing you should do is, wash your hands all the time, use hand sanitizer. But I think, the question is, are we running into a problem? I want to show you a picture that was taken this weekend at a local Target here in Washington, D.C. The shelves are empty. Like, you can see that the shelves, they're bare. There is no hand sanitizer. What are we to do when that kind of stuff starts getting, when there's shortages of it?
Soap and water. I mean, really.
But do you think that that's going to be the next thing? Or and I know this may sound silly, I just don't, do you think there's enough soap and water? Or do we need to be looking at things? When we go wash our hands, they always talk about with hand sanitizer, look at the amount of alcohol in there, 60% or whatever better is what it is. Do you need to look at what kind of soap you're buying, or is any soap okay?
Well, the idea is you're going to break the surface tension and emulsify the bacteria, the viruses off your hand. I'm a big fan of lather, rinse, repeat.
Okay.
So I'd make that recommendation if someone can't get the hand sanitizer. Even just a Clorox wipe to get the environmental surface. I'm encouraging us to do that in our office, doorknobs and that sort of thing where people may come in contact. But we are a public-facing organization. I mean, that's what we do. I just won a primary last week, and I didn't win a primary by saying, I don't want to go back to work. I won a primary by saying, I want to continue to deliver for you.
I want to ask you talked about the testing, obviously an issue that's being worked on right now. Last week we saw the president sign an $8.3 billion aid package. And, obviously a lot of the issue is supply and demand. But is that money being used quick enough and appropriately to get some of these tests up to speed, to get some of these aid workers what they need?
Well, and that's going to be the big challenge. Now, the good news there is the money sort of direct appropriation to the administration and let them, so it doesn't have to go through the myriad of congressional committees and hearings. Get the aid to the people where it's needed, and the administration has a certain amount of discretion as to where those dollars can be applied. Look, when the president first recommended $2.5 billion package, I wondered at the time, because we'd already seen some of the sell-off in the stock market, and I wondered if maybe a little bit more robust number would not be in order. Again, to give people the confidence that your Congress is taking this serious, your administration is taking this seriously, and here's a big amount of dollars that we're pushing out in a relatively short period of time. And make no mistake about it, we can come back and add to that if necessary. And I think the one thing we have learned in these last 2.5 months is this story changes significantly, almost intraday, not day by day, but the story when I got on the plane at 6 o'clock this morning is kind of different from the story that I'm encountering this afternoon.
Have you found that you personally, you mentioned your staff a little, have you changed the way you and your family go about your daily lives?
Well, that's what it is. One of the tough things about this. I've got a youngster who teaches school. I mean, yeah, he's anybody that's going to get sick during flu season, it's a school teacher, right? Because those kids bring everything in and they share it. So that's an issue. And am I concerned about it? Yes, but I would not tell him to not go and teach his class.
Right. Thank you very much. Congressman Burgess, thanks for being with us and sharing your medical insight with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, up next, tales of racism in the wake of the coronavirus, and later, a look at what's happening on the campaign trail.